I just started while muted. Welcome. I have 11:30, so we will get going on our participating schools meeting for team and individual qualifiers for this week's state gymnastics meet. First of all, congratulations on qualifying one individual, 7 individuals, a team, etc. My name is Amy Doherty, and I'm the administrator for the Minnesota State High School League State Gymnastics Tournament, and my colleague Amy Ince is on here as well. And we have a couple other colleagues, Laura McIntoon and Tim Layton, may or may not be popping in and out. Here, what we'll cover today, some of our tournament details, a checklist of the items that are due tomorrow. Oh, I was like, that didn't follow mine, Amy. Okay. Amy and I have been bouncing back and forth between about 3 different PowerPoints. We'll cover items that are due tomorrow. That some of you are quite familiar with those, and others it's brand new, and I realize it's a lot to take in. We're going to cover some tournament management, and we'll have our colleagues assist with that. All right, go ahead, Amy. Our staff for the meet itself, I'll be the tournament director, and Amy Ince will be the first face you see. She'll be working at the pass gate. If you've been at the meet in the last 15 years, you'll recognize her. Our tournament managers are Troy Erdahl, Brian Peliquin, and Sandy Boss. Again, if you've been there, well, at least in the last few years, they've been there. Sandy Boss longer than that. The floor/equipment manager is Mark Sikich. And if you're unfamiliar with him, let us know and we'll point him out to you on Friday or Saturday. Head meet referee will be Ann Suits. Assistant meet referees will be Tracy Bertram and Elaine Taggett. And we also have some experienced judges shadowing those positions in the next couple days. And so it will look like there's one or two extra meet referees, but essentially they'll just be shadowing that position. First thing to mention to you after the congratulations, of course, is there are 2 different participating school guides, and it's important you know that. There's one for the team competition and a separate one for the individual competition. If you qualified a team and individuals, you'll want to take a look at both because there are some differences between the 2 meets. If you only qualified an individual, you can ignore that team one in its entirety because everything you need to know would be in the individual participating schools guide. We're not going to cover all of it here. If we did, this meeting would be much longer than any of you want, but make sure you look at that. Coaches and ADs, please review it together. Go ahead, Amy. All right, first thing, I know a lot of you, this is kind of where your brain starts swirling, like, what do I have to do early in the week? I mean, you obviously know how to practice and you have your practices all set up and you know where your gym is, but this is kind of the pressing early in the week stuff. Because Amy is the recipient of these, I'm going to have her explain it. I think she's more used to explaining this than I am and won't trip over her words as much as I would on this.
Thank you. In your participating schools guides, which are posted on your dashboards, both for ADs and coaches, they are behind the My Sports and Activities button. Again, there's 2 guides, one for team and one for individual all around. There are 2 forms that you'll need to submit to us by tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And some of these have been coming in throughout the morning today already. I just haven't had time to take a look at them, but there's one tournament admittance form for your coaches. And this is where you're going to list your head coach, your assistant coach, and your spotter. So that's members of your official squad, and they will get admitted free of charge. They have to have been members of your official squad during the season and have to have met all the continuing education requirement and online rules modules. And we do check that on the Coaches Ed report. Additional coaches can be listed on this form, and they will be admitted for $15 per session. You do need to pay that at the pass gate when you arrive, and there's an opportunity to pay online, or we can take checks or cash as well and issue a receipt. There is not a spot, nor do we allow admittance for a team physician or a physical therapist or athletic trainer. Those are going to be provided by the State High School League. And your school medical personnel can't be admitted through the pass gate, and they're not going to be allowed on the competition floor. We have our league medical staff there for that. And just a quick note, if you qualified as a team, this form is in both the team guide and the individual all-around guide. You only need to fill it out once. If you qualified as a team, you don't need to fill it out in both places. So that is form number 1 for coaches, due tomorrow at 10 a.m. The second form in the participating schools guides is where you list your students. You don't need to list your competing athletes. That information is all pulled from your section results. So anybody who's entered in the meet and competing in the meet, or is an alternate for your team in the meet, you do not need to list that. This form is for you to list your student workers per the student worker requirement on team and individual a day. And also if you have any additional athletes that are coming with your team. The additional athletes can be allowed admittance through the pass gate, but they're not allowed on the competition floor at any time. If they arrive with your team, so they'll be getting there early, they're going to be charged $15 per session, and they're to be listed on this form. If they're arriving later, but they're members of your team, it's best if they just buy a participant ticket because it's cheaper. It's only $10 a session, and they're going to be seated in the same spot up in the spectator area.
Amy, can I jump in and just explain what the price difference there? So this bringing somebody in early, especially for schools that are far away, you might have a few JV kids who want to come watch the state meet, and instead of having their parents drive 4 hours, you have them on the bus with you. So these would be kids who aren't participating but want to come in during the same time your team comes in. Now, the common question is, well, why do they have to pay $15? Or if they can wait until the gate opens and then just pay $10, that totally makes sense. They're more than welcome to wait until the gate opens and just pay $10. But we do charge $15 because in order to even let those kids come in and sit up above, we do have to pay for extra security and guest services. I realize these kids aren't a security concern, but obviously it's a policy of Roy Wilkins. And so in order for us to extend that small benefit to the teams, we do have to charge you the $15. They can certainly wait out in the hall, but I realize it's much more fun for them to get to watch warm-ups.
Thank
You want me
you.
to cover managers, Amy, or you want
Sure.
to?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So here's another difference between team and individual day. For qualifying teams, one manager can be identified on the student admittance form. On Friday, that student manager can come onto the floor with your team and rotate with your team. However, on Saturday, your team student manager, those who participated Friday, can enter the facility, but they have to stay in the spectator area. If we allowed every school that had an individual participating to have an extra manager on the floor, we would just have too many people on the floor. So managers can be on the floor Friday, but not on Saturday.
One more quick note.
Yeah.
Schools that have an individual all-around qualifier do not get to list a student manager on their form. That's just for qualifying teams. And that's reflected on the forms in each of those guides.
And we'll talk more about that student worker requirement in a second here. Common question, some coaches are probably thinking, oh gosh, I have to send in a photo. I haven't sent in a photo. Where do I even find a photo? Your ADs were contacted in the last few weeks and have sent in your photos already. If they haven't, they would be getting in, our colleague Ellen Rakowski would be getting in touch with them. So coaches, unless you hear from one of us directly, you don't need to think about team photos at all, which is probably nice because you're thinking about a million things. So I'm going to give you one thing you don't have to think about. You also don't need to submit your competing athletes on any forms because we got those as part of the section results. Student worker requirement. I've already gotten a couple emails about this. So the history behind this, we need a few student workers to flash scores, help us on the floor. We used to have our announcer, Allie Cronk, announce just looking for student volunteers. And over the years, cell phones became more popular and nobody wants to be on the floor anymore because they just want to like sit and look at their phone. I'm making a sweeping generalization. They don't all want to do that, but it got harder and harder to find student workers. So what we had instituted a new policy, but it's a really loose policy. If you try to do the math, which I don't encourage you to do, it's hard to come up with the perfect number of student workers from each team. So I'm saying all of this, but it's also a little bit loose. Each qualifying team should provide 2 or 3 student workers on Friday. If we say 2, we won't have enough. If we say 3, we'll have too many. So it becomes a puzzle that my former gymnastics teammate, Katie Bolterman, figures out at the pass gate. Sometimes there's schools from far away and they're not bringing any JV kids and they have no one else from their school coming. You can contact me because sometimes we'll have another school that says, hey, we have extra kids, or a non-participating school that really wants to have some score flashers. If you say we have no one and we don't have enough to fill from other schools, I'll probably look up above and see, if you have a cheering section up there with a bunch of kids in it, then we would institute the requirement and actually ask you to make sure you get 2 or 3 kids down there. Okay, all that said, Saturday is even more of a puzzle because we never know how many schools we'll have. So what we say is each school with 2 or more gymnasts competing on Saturday should provide 1 student worker. Sometimes that gets us too many, sometimes it doesn't get us enough. So I apologize that that's so loose, but honestly, if you try to do the math on it, if you can figure out a better way, by all means, let me know. Those student workers will receive free admission to the session they're working, and they will receive a state gymnastics t-shirt. They should not purchase a ticket. They'll enter through the pass gate. They must be in 7th through 12th grade. They don't need to be a member of your team. So it could be a National Honor Society kid who knows nothing about gymnastics. It does not have to be a gymnast, but they do have to be in 7th grade. If we have anyone on the floor younger than 7th grade, our catastrophic insurance could become null and void. So we're really serious about that because the catastrophic insurance is hopefully never needed, but is obviously crucial if it is needed. Student workers from the same school aren't guaranteed assignments at the same event. The positions are assigned first come, first serve at the pass gate. Report time about 60 to 90 minutes prior. Now, if you know that one's going to be coming 30 minutes before, but her teammate can, speak on her behalf, that's fine. Just feel free to talk to Katie at the pass gate. She'll be sitting next to Amy. And I let her try to figure out this massive puzzle. Amy, do you have anything else about that? I'm seeing chat stuff pop up, but is it stuff I should just address later?
Couple questions. What about a former gymnast 1 year removed? Could they help?
They could not as a student worker. I don't know if this year we're still trying to find timers, etc. But no, we're not. If we were expecting a blizzard like last year, I'd say give us their name because we don't know who's going to be showing up. So we wouldn't likely not need their help this year unless we become desperate for help with an adult job. But let's keep that person in the loop next year. And if they're interested in doing some other job, that's how we end up filling all those positions. Anything else, Amy? Oh, you're muted now.
One more question that I can address. Do managers need to pay on the individuals? No. If you qualified as a team, your student manager gets in and on the floor with you on Friday. And on Saturday, again, if you qualified as a team, that manager gets in through the pass gate and can report to any of the spectator areas. They do not need to pay on individual a day. Again, that's just for team qualifiers.
And that actually leads us perfectly into the next slide. So any participant or Friday's managers, and when I say participant, that means alternates too. Any of them, they're all part of the state meet. So they can all come in free for any session, whether it's the session they're competing or the session they're not competing. The catch is they can only be on the floor for the session they're competing. Think of it like basketball. If a team loses in the quarterfinals, they're still part of the tournament. They can come in and watch, but we're not letting them down on the court. That's an even more obvious example. So if you have individuals who want to come for team day, they can report to the pass gate. If you have team qualifiers who want to come back and watch their teammates and their section teammates on individual day, they can report to the pass gate. The catch is then they would not be sitting in on the floor. They would go up into the spectator section. I know for those who competed on Friday, but did not qualify for Saturday, because they qualified on Friday, they kind of feel like they're more part of the meet, which is great. And they think, well, I should get to be on the floor. Here's the catch. It wouldn't be fair if the only gymnasts who get extra teammates on the floor are those who qualified for team. So these are two separate tournaments. If someone only qualifies as part of a team, we don't want them on the floor on individual day unless they're a student worker. And I don't know all of your kids, obviously. So we would like coaches to assist with that. If you see one of your students on the floor who shouldn't be on the floor, we would request that you ask them to go sit up above. Did I explain that thoroughly, Amy? If you have any questions, just tell them not to buy a ticket and to talk to Amy at the pass gate when they get there. All right, Josh, I'll answer your StingMat question a little bit in the future. State tournament website do we have Laura?
Yep.
On our meeting? Laura, do you want to take over for a little bit?
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy. And congratulations, everyone, on qualifying for the state gymnastics meet. I'm going to run through just a few places for you to find resources, both to support your trip to the state tournament, as well as some resources that you can share with others to save yourself time as you prepare your team for the state tournament. The screenshot you're looking at over on the right side is from the gymnastics page of the State High School League website. And I moved to this site in one of two places. Either down at the bottom, it'll talk you through the button that says sports and activities, and then picking gymnastics, or there's actually a shortened URL that is simply mshsl.org/gymnastics. That will bring you to this page, and those blue buttons right underneath state tournament information, those will continue to grow as we move toward the tournament. This is on the public side of the website, so this is a great place for you to find resources, but also to send your fans and your spectators. There's a quick link here to tickets. There is a one-page schedule here. Also posted and not on the button, we have a spectator guide that is really a printable document that talks somebody coming to the tournament through it. There's a quick link to apparel here. When the program is posted, which we expect to be either late today or early tomorrow, that button will be added here. You see a button here for live results. We do have a program that helps us prepare and give some results out as the meet is going on. And then there will also be a button added here that will give a PDF of final results. So again, this is a great place to send all of your fans and spectators, whether they are attending in person or attending from afar, to get some of those resources. A few of the things as we move through here, and we've talked a couple times already about programs, just a reminder that all State High School League programs are online programs, and they can be found on that gymnastics page, or we do have a programs page that shows all of our programs. Work with your fans and spectators so that they know this. Many of them choose to bookmark this on their mobile device, save a button on their mobile device, maybe print the page that has their team on, whatever works for them. But just a reminder that all of our programs are online. Also, gymnastics apparel. Apparel will be available for purchase on site. This is our second year with Signature Concepts, and they continue to do just an amazing job with our apparel. As with any apparel vendor, sometimes sizes are a little bit limited. So we always encourage folks to buy early. However, you can also buy online. It does include a shipping fee when it gets there, but if they happen to be out of the size or the style that you want, purchasing online is also an option until the Tuesday following the tournament. Streaming, NSPN.TV, which was formerly known as Prep Spotlight and/or School Space, will be broadcasting both days of the state gymnastics meet. It will include cameras on all 4 of the events, as well as coverage of the awards ceremony. NSPN is a subscription-based product. Their price point is $10 a month, and they make it very easy to pick either a month or a year when you first sign up, or $30 a year for that sign up. So again, if you have folks that are going to be attending from afar, this would be that information that they need so that they do find that official streaming partner. Unfortunately, we see an awful lot of scams at this time of the year. So please help your spectators with that. The next slide talks you through coaches and ADs where you can find additional information to prepare for the meet. Again, what we've talked about so far is all available to the public, but there's a lot of information that Amy, and others put out that is just really meant for you as a coach or an AD. So this screenshot, number 1 over on the far left-hand side, coaches and ADs on your dashboard, you have a blue box that looks much like this. It says My Sports and Activities. If you're the AD, it says My School's Sports and Activities. When you click on that button with the red arrow, you will get 1 or more of those bands down at the bottom. My example here says girls hockey. If yours is gymnastics, you're going to see gymnastics, girls, and the section you're in. If you coach multiple sports, you're going to see multiple of those bands. And again, you're looking for the girls gymnastics one. Once you click that little plus mark that Amy is circling on there for you, you will see what's on the left-hand side open up for you. And this is your go-to spot for all things gymnastics. The far left-hand side where it says activity resources, those are the resources that were posted at the beginning of the year to help you have a successful gymnastics season. The middle section is where your section tournament manager posted things to help you have a successful section tournament. And then over on the right-hand side, that is the list that is growing almost daily here as we move toward the state tournament. You'll see emails coming from Amy Ince perhaps, and she may attach some of these, but she works really hard to make sure that every one of those things is also posted in this area. That saves you from having to go back and find those emails or keep those sorted out. So again, this 1, 2, 3 screenshot, this is on the dashboard behind the login. And these are things that are aimed for coaches and ADs who are participating. And again, a lot of helpful information here for you as you move through. And then I believe the last slide that I'll talk to talks about tickets. Multiple ways to get to the tickets link on our website. There is a quick link up at the top. You can also get there through Roy Wilkins with a simple Google, but they will all take you to Roy Wilkins Excel for that ticket purchase. Tickets are $15 for adults, $10 for students. That does include all fees, and they are run through the MyWild piece, so they are shown on a smartphone or can be put into your Apple or Google Wallet for arrival. And I think with that, I'm turning it to Tim Layton to talk just a bit about media.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Laura, and welcome and congratulations to all. What an exciting week for you and your participants and your communities as you descend upon St. Paul for the gymnastics state tournament. The Minnesota State High School League Student Media Program is in effect for the gymnastics tournament, and I've already heard from quite a few of the ADs from the participating schools. And just a reminder at this point, the Student Media Program, you are permitted to have an individual cover for the team portion only. So when you see an approval come through for your student media members, that is for Friday's team gymnastics only and not for the individual portion on Saturday. A reminder that the student media program consists of 3 individuals, It can be 2 students and then 1 faculty advisor. Now that faculty advisor, just a reminder, cannot be the AD. That's by policy adopted by the Minnesota State High School League Board of Directors. That faculty advisor has to be an adult with a school email address, and they need to be on site with supervision of those 2 students. Deadline to do that for you administrators can remember that all credential requests flow through your office. You have until Thursday night at 7 o'clock to submit your credential request. With that, I appreciate your time and your listening. Good luck to all for a terrific week. Amy, back to you.
Tim, I actually have a question for you. Well, and first, Laura, thank you. Every time you present, I learn things, and I've heard that a bunch of times. Tim, as you know, the space on the floor gets kind of tight. Well, less so than when we were at the U. But does that faculty advisor have to be with the student media down on the floor, or just on site? Like, could they just be sitting in the spectator area as long as they're available if needed?
Yeah, they could. They need to be an arm's length away, or somewhere within on the site to make sure that there are supervisory roles there. And then another reminder: Carmen Middleton will be our on-site media steward. She will help you with guiding you and showing you the different areas, reviewing policy so that it's a positive experience.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Moving on, this is mostly for ADs. You are required to have a school admin rep or reps on Friday for team competition, just like you would be for basketball. For each AD, as the school admin rep, we would trust you to be responsible for the conduct of your team members and spectators. Fortunately, knock on wood, that is a rarely needed responsibility at the state gymnastics meet, but we do expect you to have a admin rep on site. Now, we know some of you are hosting section wrestling, or you might have an issue, or not an issue, sorry. You might have a team over at girls hockey. And so if it can't be you, it can be another administrator or well-known trusted staff member. But you are required to have that person. And because of that, we give you 4 complimentary tickets for the team competition day. And those are distributed via email to the AD. And those 4 tickets for team day are so that you can have additional staff there to supervise. Amy, those emails were already sent out, correct? Okay.
Yes, they were sent out by the Excel Center ticketing staff on Sunday morning to each of the 16 qualifying schools ADs.
Thanks. And then moving on to Saturday, we know some of you might, if you just have 1 gymnast and 2 parents there, it's unrealistic to ask you to be a school admin rep at the meet on Saturday. So if you don't have an admin there, we would just talk to your head coach or give you a call if need be. We're less concerned about that. But again, those tickets are only for team. No AD, including those who have a team, receive free tickets for the individual day. If you have an AD pass, you can use your AD pass to get in, or Amy, if they don't have an AD pass on Saturday, can they check in with you? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So, but you won't get the 4 free tickets. Some of this is so clear in my head because we've done it for so many years, but it's hard for me to know if it's clear for people who are new. That said, if you have any questions after this meeting, Amy and I will keep it open for a while, but you can also shoot us an email. We get all sorts of questions this week. If we can't answer them, we find somebody who can. So especially for those of you who are new and your brains are swirling, don't hesitate to ask. Bylaw 106, this is a reminder that if you have any ineligible athletes, I don't think we've had any ejections in gymnastics, but if somebody is serving a 2-week penalty, et cetera, they are not allowed to be part of the competition or part of the event. They have to be fully eligible in order to occupy the floor, playing area, receive medals, etc. Coaches, you can talk to your ADs if you have any concerns about that. Hopefully you don't. Behavior expectations and requirements of attendees. This applies to both Friday and Saturday. The Friday part is, you know, more about if you have a whole student group, if you're bringing fan buses, etc. You might have to just tap into a few of these behavior issues a little bit more, hopefully not. Saturday, there are some bits of information we do need you to share with your fans. First of all, spectators are not permitted to bring cameras, backpacks, or bags into any MSHSL postseason event. Roy Wilkins is not, they do have a bag policy. They are not a venue that says you can't bring in anything, but there's a certain size that if somebody's going to bring in a bag, there's a certain size. And ADs, especially those of you who might have a fan bus coming on Friday, they also can't bring backpacks. So if they're leaving school in the morning, they need to find a place to store their backpack. I would say put it in your locker, but apparently they don't have lockers anymore. But they can't bring their backpack to the venue. If the bus driver is staying on the bus, they could just leave their backpacks on the bus, but make sure they don't bring them into the venue. All right, Amy. Now, not for ADs, but for coaches, we'll have a coaches meeting each day at 8:10 and 3:10, and that's obviously depending on which session you have. And we'll go over a few of these things will be repeat, but it'll just be a lot of just day of reminders. We won't have much time. We're going to rattle through a bunch of stuff. I often refer to an area as the backstage area. If you haven't been to Roy Wilkins yet, that might sound confusing to you, but once you get there, you'll probably know what I mean. We have a competition floor that has seating up above on 3 sides, and then there's a big partition wall past the vault runway, and behind that partition wall, there's a whole nother area. And when I say backstage, that's the area I mean. Again, once you get there, that'll make sense to you. Dressing rooms, we don't have locker rooms available for participants. We do have a couple designated changing areas, but they're just rooms with a couple mirrors. And we have restrooms. For those of you who've been there before, there is a men's restroom backstage, kind of by on the side where the vault runway would start. We are turning that men's restroom into a women's restroom. They only need one. We don't have enough men on the floor that they just don't get as many as we're going to take for women. And I have approved that with a few males who will be in attendance. So for those of you looking for space, know that we're going to have an extra women's bathroom in the back. Oh yeah, and this. And remind your athletes, we don't want them changing in there. They have a special area where they get to sit. They should not be changing Leos in that area. To some of them, it's just completely natural to run around in a sports bra, etc. But it's not a professional look for a state tournament. So ask them to please not change in that team seating area. When you check in with Amy Ince on either Friday or Saturday, you'll get a packet. And those of you, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong. If they're on team day, is all their individual stuff in that same packet? So they just
Yes.
get the one packet, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so you'll get one packet from Amy when you check in on Friday or on Saturday. Coaches, if you happen to be in attendance on Friday, even though you don't have any athletes there, you could touch base with Amy on that day. Just maybe time it so that if you have teams coming in, we'll try to let those teams get in before she has the one-on-one conversations with you. So in your packet, you'll have a lineup card for team competition. We don't care what order you competed at sections. We're starting from scratch. So we'll ask you to fill out that team lineup card for each event. And that should be brought to the head scoring table by 10:15 or 5:15. And then after that, you could make changes, but all of those would have to go through Ann Suits, the meet referee, or one of the assistant meet referees. Or if it was, you know, an injury and we know about it, Troy or I or Brian or Sandy could just sign off on that. And then when you go to an event, your athletes will each have cards. So the section 1 athletes will be numbered 101, 102, 103, 117, etc. When you go to vault, we request that you put those cards in order and bring them to the scoring table at vault. So it should match your lineup card. That just helps us make sure we're flashing the right score for the right gymnast. And then individual competition, there's no lineup card. Your lineup gets picked randomly. And those individuals all have numbers. They're listed in the order they'll compete in the program, which will be posted online. And similar to team day, we would request that one coach from the section puts those lineup cards in order before going to the event. I always joke that if nobody wants that job, one of the team coaches who already did it on Friday can be in charge of it. So, or they can delegate to somebody else. Parade of Champions, also called Marchin'. The gymnast will be instructed by our announcer to line up in what I'm calling the backstage area. For team competition, your entire team, including up to 4 alternates, will be introduced. For individual competition, all the individual qualifiers from the section will march in together and be introduced. We do request appropriate school uniforms for that. So if you have a team where they're all wearing pink bunny slippers around because it's like your thing, we don't want pink bunny slippers during the team march-in. We just want, the sweatshirt and leggings or warm-ups, etc. But no extra funny spirit items. You can bring flowers. For years, we've requested no glitter because it's going to fall all over the floor mat. We're adding this year no pine needles because a few had pine needles last year. And then when they walked off the floor, there were about 8 of us trying to pick up pine needles before the first gymnast competed on floor. So I assume as the coach, you're probably not arranging that. Hopefully a parent is, but if you could request that they don't have, an arrangement that's just going to be dropping things, that would help all of us, especially the first couple girls who are on floor. Music, make sure you bring your floor music on an electronic device or CD. We also encourage you to have a backup version of your music in another format. So if all your music is on one person's phone, it's obviously a good idea to have all of your floor music on some other device also, because if you don't have your music, we don't have it either. So please bring another form. We also request that you bring a cord to plug in your device. We'll have a bunch of cords, but there's just more and more cords all the time. So we want to make sure you have the right one. So if you have a cord for your device, we would request that you bring it. You can test your floor music when you are warming up for floor. And we will play the other music during touch and during warm-ups. We're a little stricter than most high schools about the music we play at our state gymnastics tournament. If we left it up to you, not that any of you have questionable taste, but I was even at state dance team on Friday and I'm singing along to a Billy Joel song that a team is performing to. And I'm like, oh, they're talking about alcohol in that song. So we try to avoid all of any reference that teenagers or young kids in the crowd just don't need to be singing along to. Yes, Heather, you can put in music requests. I will tell you, please read the lyrics before you send them. We've told people that before, and then they send in the song, and Amy and I are like, well, that's like sexualizing a woman's body. We're not going to put that in. Or there's swear words or references to alcohol or references to drugs. But if you have some favorite music, review it ahead of time, so that we don't have to spend too much time reviewing lyrics that might not be appropriate. And I'm nothing against those songs. I mean, I sing along to those too. We also don't take bleeped out versions because we all know when something's bleeped out, everybody sings it along anyhow. So sorry if I sound strict about that, but I am conscious about not just our teenage gymnasts, but all the younger gymnasts and little siblings up above. Equipment. I saw Josh asked a question about this, and I know this is going to be a popular one. We have a posted list on the Coach AD dashboard. Each school can bring your own springboard. You're welcome to leave it overnight for those of you who are there Friday and Saturday. We do have a hand placement mat for vault, but if you really love your own, you can certainly bring your own. We don't want additional equipment brought into the meet without talking to Mark Sikachari. And when you do talk to us, we'll probably say, yeah, bring it. The catch is if 50 teams ask to bring a sting mat, we really don't need 50 teams to bring a sting mat. So, after saying yes to the first few, when somebody asks, we might say, there's already going to be 8 extra sting mats during your session, so you might want to rethink it. That said, I know last year, and so we rent all the equipment from one company. For those of you who weren't around in the 90s, that wasn't a concept one could do in the 90s. And so the MSHSL had to buy all of the equipment and then sell all of the equipment. So we just use the one company to rent everything. And we take what we can get from them, which is why we're saying, and I will say, if you don't like the width of the sting mats, because they are narrow, talk to Mark or I and bring your own. Last year, I think St. Cloud Tech dropped, or St. Cloud, the co-op of St. Cloud dropped one off, and then the A schools started using it too, and so they just left it. But do know if there's something you really, really need, like you need your spotting block to be exactly 26.5 inches, maybe you just want to bring that and don't trust that we have it unless it is on the sheet. So that's why I wrote additional shared sting mats, because there were a couple last year floating in rotation. And typically teams are happy to share, but if a team brought their own, they get dibs on it, obviously, while they need it. Last on this slide, when it's not your rotation, please bring your springboard back to the backstage area. Otherwise, on Saturday, we end up with a whole obstacle course of 40 springboards right next to the runway, and it's hard for people to walk by.
Amy, question in the chat, do you know the size of the round off pad, or at least if it's square or rectangle?
I don't, but I can find out.
Okay.
Oh, is that Joni on Josh's? Is that what I saw? I was kind of impressed. I was like, wow, Josh Dale really cares about, Josh Dale is an AD. It surprised me that he really cared that much about the size of the sting mat.
That was Kaylee Kissick's question, different question from Joni.
I think there was but Josh earlier asked the sting mat one, but yeah, apparently it wasn't Josh. I will find out the size. Now I can't even find that. Oh yeah, the size of the round off pad. And when Amy sends this link out to all the participants, because some might not be able to watch it right now, so we're going to send this all to you, I will respond to that question if the round off pad is square or rectangle. And yes, Worthington would really like a sting mat wider than 8 feet, but they can't bring one from Worthington. So maybe somebody can bring one. And Joni, why don't you touch base with Mark or I later in the week, and we can let you know if somebody has already volunteered to bring that. Yeah, so I'm seeing again, about all of these, if you don't like the stuff we provide, just bring your own, but let us know so we don't end up with 60 sting mats. When we used to be at the U, we said no extra equipment because as of those of you who know, there was really no extra room on the floor. But at Roy Wilkins, we do have a lot of extra room backstage. So we're not as concerned. It's just helpful if we know in advance. Heather, I see St. Michael has a wide one, and yes, they are setting up on Thursday. So Heather, maybe we'll have one of your parents throw that in the back of a truck, and then when you leave on Saturday night, you could take it with you. Boy, there's a whole lot of sting mat stuff. I'll let you guys all read that while I continue to go through the slides here. Medical staff, as Amy indicated earlier, we will provide the medical staff. We'll have a physician or physical therapist. We'll have a certified athletic trainer. We have no school medical personnel allowed on the competition floor. Once again, we would just have way too many people. If you anticipate taping needs, please bring your own athletic tape. And now I'm going to add something even more important. When your gymnast goes to get tape, actually send it with her. The trainers go through more tape at gymnastics than any other activity. And then I mention it to coaches and they're all like, we have tape, but the gymnasts just walk over there and just ask to be taped. So if you don't mind making sure your gymnast brings her own tape, that would be helpful. And we do have the trainer arriving 15 minutes earlier than last year. I know there was a little bit of a lineup to get ankles taped before warmups. Rotating to events. Common question, again, this sort of has to do with our old space, which was pretty restricted versus our new space, which is less restricted. On Friday, all of the team participants, including those not competing on that event, may rotate to the event. And there's a stanchioned area at each event for them to hang out. I'd like to say sit. I don't even know why we rent chairs because none of the gymnasts sit in them. They all stand, but we adults sometimes like to have chairs. And then on Saturday, instead of just allowing the 6 gymnasts competing on each event to rotate to that event, we think it's fun to let all the section gymnasts go together, and they kind of end up forming their own team. But for some of you, that could end up being 12 kids, 15 kids. So subject to change, and I only say that in case you're just overflowing and no one's staying where they should be. All of the gymnasts on Saturday can rotate to every event so they can cheer each other on. But as coaches, if you don't have an athlete on that event, we would request you stay over in the seating area. Otherwise, we really get too many people. And we'd rather the gymnasts get that opportunity with one another, even if it means some of the coaches have to sit on the side. Of course, if you do have someone competing on that event, or you're the best bars setter in the whole section and everyone wants you there, go to the event. But if you're not needed, we'll ask you to stay over on the side just so there's room for the gymnasts. Then speaking of stanchions, this question always comes up based on how the rule book words filming and authorized areas, etc. Any filming or photography done by a coach, manager, or gymnast. So this is not our credentialed media, but this is your manager on Friday or an assistant coach on Saturday, should be done behind the stanchioned viewing area at each event. And that's cleared through our meet referee and our judges. So that becomes our authorized area to meet the NFHS rules. And then speaking about rotating, we want all the gymnasts and coaches to stay at the event until all the events are complete in that rotation. So when you end vault and bars early, hang out there, watch beam and floor, and then we'll all move at the same time. That said, if 1 or 2 coaches needs to go to bars early or vault early to get set up, go for it, but we'll just keep the mass rotating. We'll wait until everybody is complete with their event. Okay, I'm going to look at did we solve the sting mat? Well, here's what I'll say about sting mats. If I read these chat questions and I know for a fact someone is bringing one, we'll include that in the email that we send this afternoon. Yeah, okay. Oh, Shelley says it's not a sting mat, but Debbie says it is 4 wide sting mats. Oh, I know your landing mat. Yeah. We have what we have. So if somebody wants to bring a landing mat, call Mark. Okay, and Amy says the rental company has the TAC 10 rectangle included and also has a gray square. You guys are talking about the landing mats. I gotcha. Yeah, I realize that's a big ask, but we have what we have. I'd love to be able to provide everything that everybody wants, but we're limited by what we have. And if you really, really want something, talk to Mark. Jen, yes, I can let you know if we find out early. Now, the one catch would be if somebody really wants it on vault and you really want it on bars and you're the same time, the person who gets it is going to end up getting dibs on that. So we will be there setting up on Thursday, starting at about 11. Now, the big truck will be in the way, but if there is a team that's going to bring a big one, I realize you won't want to park in the ramp and walk across the street. From about 11 to 3, we'll be setting up. So assuming you can get by the big truck, you could pull up into the loading dock. It's an outdoor, it looks like a big driveway, essentially. You could pull up there and bring your mat in, but again, tell Mark Sikich so we don't have 40 of you all doing that. You could sneak that in on Thursday so that you just don't have to worry about it later. Okay, and there is Mark's number right there. Although, how about this, Joni? I'm going to put you in charge of calling Mark. If you can't, delegate it to someone else, because otherwise we're going to have 25 people calling Mark right now. So, okay, perfect. So Joni will call Mark and talk this through, and then we'll get back to you. But that way you're not all calling him at the exact same moment. Again, Joni, if you're not able, feel free to, I'll let you redelegate that job. Amy, is there anything I missed aside from everybody wants different mats? If somebody knows a different company that has different mats, I'd be more than happy in the future to rent from a different company, but I will guarantee I will not be buying a full set of equipment and trying to sell the full set of equipment like we used to do. So if there's no other questions, we'll let you go. We'll see you when you check in and at the coaches meeting. Those of you who are new, I know your brains are probably swirling. Just trust that there's a whole bunch of helpful coaches in your section and out there. Some have been at this meet for decades, and it becomes a team effort, especially on Saturday. So try not to panic too much this week or let your brain swirl too much this week, because we'll make sure everything works out perfectly for you and your gymnast, or at least, I mean, hopefully their routines will be perfect, but I can't promise that. But we'll make the experience good for all of them. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you later this week.